Good evening friends and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome to my face. So this video is going to be a review about the TV show I May Destroy You, written by Michaela Cole, also starring Michaela Cole, and also surprisingly starring a lot of people that I know. So hi guys, if you're in it, you know, is what it is. Basically it's a TV show, came on BBC iPlayer. It's got quite a few episodes, but all of the episodes are out now, so if you want to binge, you can binge, but binge safely. It's basically a series that explores a young writer called Arabella, and she is struggling to write a book, and she goes out and gets sexually assaulted because she blacks out. She gets drunk and she blacks out. We as the audience and her herself doesn't really know what's happening, so the first few episodes is her trying to figure out what exactly happened, not wanting to succumb to the fact that she may have been raped, and she doesn't want to, you know, deal with that idea. Yeah, and then we kind of see her how she deals with the situation, how she continues on with her life, as well as like her career with the book she's writing. She's still like kind of struggling with that. Other distractions that come and hit her, other forms of sexual harassment, sexual abuse that she goes through throughout the story, and her friends, which also kind of go through their own things. So it's kind of like an exploration of like the blurred lines of humanity, I like to say, and the idea of consent and the blurred lines behind consent, and that kind of thing, and so forth and such. But yes, that's basically what it's about. I'm not gonna really go into spoilers too tough because I'll leave you guys to watch it, but this is more gonna be about like my thoughts on it, what I think, how I feel about it, and stuff like that. So let's get to it.
Every time I take a draw, that's a mind out. Done it all time, flavors since lights out.
Like I said, the whole kind of theme of the TV show is consent, and how consent is perceived by various different people, and it explores sex and love and consent in a very healthy way and a very interesting way, in my opinion. As a viewer, if it's something that you necessarily don't have much experience about or are quite ignorant to, it's a way of finding out certain situations and finding out what exactly it means for the victim, for the abuser, and so on and so forth, and the blurred lines between what's good and what's bad, and where consent can get very blurred within the situation. 1 second. Hello? Sorry, that was my best friend. Anyway, so yeah, so we see the blurred lines between consent, you know, the abuser, and like good and bad, and the reactions of other people, and the reactions of the victim, the reactions and things like that of the abuser, and so on and so forth and such, which basically, personally, I found the writing really good, and I think it's because the characters were very fleshed out. They weren't one-dimensional, you know, the characters weren't just one person. It wasn't just, oh, this is the bubbly best friend, or this is the gay best friend, or this is the angry black woman, or this is the victim. It was very much a exploration of just humans, and like the way we are as dynamic as people. It was really explored within the characters, because you saw like her best friend Terry, she was the one who gave that guy the call to say, nah, she'll be fine, she does this all the time. But then at the end of the day, this is what kind of led to her, you know, going through that traumatic experience. And it's like she kind of held that back for a long time, but then she tried to overcompensate with trying to get her better, when sometimes the truth just had to be said. But Arabella was just in a state where she was like, well, it is what it is. Now you know I know, and I know you know, kind of thing, you know? Like, we see that kind of side, and then we see the side of, like, is it Kwame? The best friend, the gay best friend, and, you know, he goes through sexual harassment or sexual assault, and then he kind of has his own trauma, but he's there trying to be there for his friends at the same time. And you see the dynamics of a human being, and you see the dynamics of how we are not just one-dimensional when we go about life, and we all have different experiences, we all have shit to deal with. And I think the show and the way the characters were written kind of portrays that and highlights that, and I think that's really good. I also think the way the story is unveiled is actually very nice. So we're hit first off, like, we see the kind of relationship she's in with the guy from Italy, and we also see her relationship with her friends. We see kind of like where she is in her career, we kind of see the kind of person she is, and we kind of see like where she is in life, kind of thing. And then we get that night that happens, and everything starts to kind of slowly become chaotic, become crazy, and we see it in the writing, we see it in the characters, we see it in the direction, and we see how, like, chaotic it becomes as Arabella herself becomes a bit chaotic and the trauma begins to consume her. We kind of get that within the writing and within the characters and within the direction, and I really liked how that was unveiled. It's like we're learning more about that night as she's learning more about that night, and we're learning more about Arabella as she's learning more about herself. And I really liked how we went on the journey with her. I think Michaela Cole, sublime writing, absolutely superb, and it was just so concise. It was so, every word that came from those people I believed, and the whole story was just intriguing from start to finish. And yeah, it was genuinely a really good series. I'd say the two main themes that I really liked was about consent, but also about the way she didn't want to come to terms with being a victim or being called a victim. She wanted to take ownership of her own life and take ownership of her own narrative. She didn't want to be painted. She wanted to paint her own picture of herself. And I think by the end of it, that is what she was doing with her book. She was creating her narrative within that narrative. And I think that the way Michaela Cole wrote that was beautiful, because we're seeing her create her own narrative, but we're also seeing Arabella create her own narrative, and, you know, Michaela Cole is also taking charge of it. I obviously don't know her personal story in relation to consent and sexual assault, but I can imagine that the whole process would have been quite healing for her, and if, you know, she hadn't gone through something like that, then it would be quite informative and quite lovely to experience, I think. I think the direction was very solid. I really liked the way costume, the way the light really reflected her as an actress. I have this thing that black actors, because black skin tone ranges from, you know, light skin, dark skin, brown skin, etc, etc. You know, we have many shades of black, and I think it's important as a director to understand that you can't use your standard light for certain things. You want to use a certain light to convey certain things and to reflect the true beauty of the characters, and I think that this show really does that. Even the nightclub scenes, they're not, you know, darkened out, but they're darkened out in a way that reflects what's going on, you know. And when it's like more of a cold, kind of the grittier British kind of ideas, like, you know, when they're in the school and stuff, and we kind of see the color palette was very reflective of what was going on in the scene, and also of the characters that were in the scene, and none of them look washed out, none of them look grey, unless it was intentional to the scene that was going on. And I really liked that about it, because they took time and care to make sure they got it right, and I like when people do that. I like when it's precise. I like when it's worked on well enough that, you know, they took time to really plan that, and I must admit it was very good. also that finale episode, you know, the fact that it kept repeating is kind of like what you do with multiple drafts. And I think that they portrayed the idea of multiple drafts within that, like kind of going back to the point when you're stuck at a section and you're like, I don't know how to end this. I don't know how to just end what I've gone and given you this massive piece of work, and I don't know how to say, boom, okay, that's it, that's the end of the story. And I think that Arabella kind of, the way that they directed it was that we're kind of seeing her writing and scribbling out and writing and scribbling it out and, you know, rearranging the post-it notes on the wall, and we're starting to see her taking control of the narrative. We're now becoming a lot stronger, understanding it for her and understanding it within ourselves, that yeah, we can change our narrative. You know, we're not necessarily victims to all of the wrongdoings that happen against us. And I think that's really beautiful, and the way that happened was really beautiful. I must say though, you know me, I'm always gonna come with something that is not necessarily positive, it's not necessarily negative, it depends how you take it, but whatever, we move. I personally feel like I liked a lot of the supporting actors. I mean, shout out to Lawrence, Funsize, you know, she played young Terry in the school and she did amazing, so shout out to her. But and you know, the other supporting artists and characters and actors were very strong. However, before watching I May Destroy You, for the first time I watched Chewing Gum, and I don't necessarily like comparing people's work to each other, but because, you know, they could be in a different headspace, she would have grown by then, you know, it's a different style of writing and, you know, different perspectives and whatever. But for me personally, I felt like, when I first watched Chewing Gum, I thought that her acting was amazing. I felt like her clowning was very good, and I almost wish that I studied her at the time when it first came out. That's a shout out to drama school, so make sure, you know, you get her on your books for clowning. But anyway, she played a really good clown, very good comedic character, and with I May Destroy You, it was a bit more of a more serious character. But I kind of feel like Michaela Cole's range as an actress kind of is like, say this is, I can't remember what the character from Chewing Gum is called. Tracy, right. I feel like her character Tracy is like up here, and Arabella is like a more mature version of Tracy. It's almost like that's kind of the vibe I was getting from her, especially in like the drunk and the drug scenes. It's like I was seeing Tracy again, and I would have loved to see her discard that and become a more kind of naturalistic kind of character, because of the way it was directed and because it was so surreal. You know, the elements of the direction were very surreal. It was very overt. It was almost, you know, like bigger than what it is. And I feel like the naturalistic acting from, you know, the other supporting characters is what made the chaotic scenes even more beautiful. But I felt like Michaela Cole's acting didn't really go with it. I kind of felt like it just stayed as the one thing. And I suppose as a main character you can kind of get away with it, but me personally, I felt like I would have liked to have seen a bit more of that realistic, naturalistic acting, or, you know, a bit more. But nevertheless, I think that, like I said, the external characters and the supporting roles were really, really well played. And I do agree that the characters were very well written. I just maybe would have liked to have seen her act a bit more in that kind of naturalistic realm, because the language itself kind of plays to the surrealism of the whole situation. And I think that coming from a naturalistic standpoint would have actually been a lot more powerful. You know, you're seeing this real surreal, chaotic situation happening within the confines of a quite naturalistic situation. But that's me personally, that was my opinion. Overall, I really, really enjoyed the series, and again, like you guys know, I don't really like a lot of things, so yeah, I did really enjoy it. And I think it's a really good way of understanding yourself and understanding that you can control the narrative that people are trying to paint you with or people are trying to give you. And it's quite inspiring to see a young black woman like Michaela Cole kind of taking ownership of the industry and saying, I can tell these daring stories and I can tell them very fucking well. And all props to her. The fact that so many people that I know were in this show as well as Chewing Gum, I've decided that we should work together. So Michaela Cole, if you manage to come across this video, you know, and you think I'm good vibes, let me know, because I feel like I would love to work with her and, you know, things like that. So manifestation, guys. But yeah, overall, I really like the series. I would definitely recommend you watch it. Obviously, trigger warning to those who have gone through sexual assault, sexual harassment, rape, or situations where the lines of consent have been blurred. I will put some links to various services that you can go to if you are experiencing any of those situations and you want to talk to someone or get some help. I'll put as many links as I know below. And if any of you know of any more, put them in the comment section, please, so that we can create a nice little friendly environment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think about it. Like I said, my DMs are open, my comments are open, social media, let me know what you think. And yeah, guys, I think I'm gonna end this video here. So please like this video if you like this video, hit subscribe button if you want to see more of my face, and I will see you guys in my next video. So bye, guys.
Oh wow, they be talking like the hella fly.